Darkness drifted over Earth not from the falling of night, but from the shadow of something foreign. Massive ships hovering silently above cities, blotting out the sun like hands closing over a candle flame. Humanity saw them at first as wonders, silhouettes of otherworldly technology, proof that we were not alone. All quickly turned to fear when the ships didn't speak, didn't make demands, didn't even provide a reason. All they did was open their hatches and send down small streaks of blue light, vanishing entire groups of children in a flash. No explanation. No ransom. Just silence. People screamed. Governments collapsed into chaos. For the first time in 4,000 years, humanity looked up and saw that peace had left the sky. The galaxy did not greet us, it took from us. We called them the Empire, though they never gave us a name. Their designs were cold and sharp, miles-wide ships shaped like mandibles of creatures we'd never seen. Their drones were fast, silent, and always one step ahead. Every child under the age of 12 vanished within just 3 weeks. Cities emptied of laughter. Schoolyards went still. Parents were left clutching cradles and empty beds, begging into cameras that no one answered. For generations, humanity had basked in peace, unity, and unmatched prosperity. The planet was cured of hunger, war, and division. Old rivalries dissolved into shared advancement. The stars were our next step, but fear rot even the most united roots. The Galactic Empire shattered all of it with quiet precision. No war declared. No weapons fired, just a harvest. At first, Earth tried to understand. They sent messages. Scientists studied the skies for patterns, reasons, signs. Every great mind worked to decode the why. Religious leaders called it judgment. Scholars warned of first contact mishandlings. But the silence from the stars screamed louder than any explosion. We didn't even know if they heard us. So, in secret places, something began to stir. Not fear, not mourning. Something older. Humanity had forgotten what it meant to feel fury, not just anger, but soul-deep awakening rage. Across continents, memories of long-forgotten wars rose like dust being shaken from ancient weapons. We remembered how to forge not just tools, but machines. Not just wonders, but weapons. Peace had made us soft, but wisdom made us dangerous. A hidden council emerged. Not built from politicians, but from survivors, scientists, explorers, strategists, fighters, people spread out across Mars. Titan and orbital stations, long thought only fit for research, bent everything they had into one shared declaration: we will not be prey. What was taken must be returned, and what stood in the way would be broken. They called the operation Reclaim. It wasn't led by nations. There were no nations anymore. It wasn't driven by vengeance, though vengeance burned hot in every heart. It was deeper than that. An instinct as ancient as the bones beneath our soil. You do not take our children, not. Without war, among those called to the front, Lyons was a quiet technician. From one of the outer moons, a woman who had never held a weapon but could speak 13 machine languages. Her job had once been to maintain Mars weather systems. Now she rewired satellites into kinetic spears. She had no family left. Like many, her child was among the vanished, replaced only by a scar on the floor. And silence at the dinner table. Then there was the crew of a salvaged freighter refitted with stolen alien tech. Its captain, once a historian obsessed with pre-spaceflight archives, now hunted Empire ships as if following the patterns of fallen empires from Earth's past. Each encounter was unpredictable. Each fight was in the dark, blinking stars, radio static, blue pulse fields that disintegrated steel in seconds, but it wasn't always about weapons. This was a war of minds. Back on Earth, thousands poured into underground think tanks, pulling apart every image, sound, and intercepted signal from the Empire's movement. Psychologists dug into the possible structure of an alien mind. Linguists searched for similarities between their patterns and ancient languages. Every hint mattered. Every wire stripped open another doorway into what waited beyond. Even the children had changed everything. In one intercepted feed, barely a second long, a human child was seen in clear detail, eyes wide. Their lips moved. The audio was scrambled. But lip readers and software analysts agreed the child had spoken just one sentence. Asterisk, don't come. Asterisk, the message spread like wildfire. Some believed the children were alive, being protected forcefully for reasons still unknown. Others thought the Empire was using them, experimenting, reprogramming. But no theory dulled the singular truth that kept humanity moving toward war. Our children were taken. That was the line. Still, not all agreed. A growing sect across the Venusian circles and deep Earth enclaves warned against open conflict. They believed the Empire had reasons beyond understanding, and that humanity's aggression might doom what remained. They called themselves the Keepers, pushing for deeper communication efforts or even surrender. Some claimed to have heard voices in dreams, alien minds whispering warnings, or something darker. These divisions brewed as Earth's defense systems restructured. Moon-based railguns, debris-shield satellites, and AI-controlled drone fleets began forming walls around the inner solar system. The old peace had been torn apart. But a new kind of unity had surged in its place, a unity built on bloodlines, loss, and the iron certainty that even the smallest species can strike back when cornered. Still, no one truly knew what they were up against. No one had seen the face of the Empire. No one knew their goals, their true power, or their weaknesses if they had any. Every battle fought so far was a test of shadows. Ambushed in asteroid fields. Stolen blueprints decoded by near-mad engineers. Whispers of creatures behind shields that looked almost human but moved like ghosts just before Earth launched its first retaliatory strike beyond the asteroid belt. A second wave of ships appeared not above cities, but orbiting Saturn's outermost moon, small, silent, not harvesting, observing. Then disappearing, something was changing again. From deep space came a signal. Different than before, repetitive, rhythmic, 8 tones, then a pause. Repeated over and over as if it were a song, a language, or a warning. Across Earth and the colony, scientists scrambled to decode it. Historians linked the melody to an old Earth lullaby. Physicists claimed it was a countdown. The message brought fear, but not hesitation. Human ships began forming fleets. War maps folded over star charts. AI warforms blinked to life in ice-covered bunkers. Earth's skies filled once again, not with dreams of exploration, but the iron promise of reckoning, and just before the first human-led vessel crossed beyond Pluto's edge, a final encrypted transmission came through from a source thought lost 4 years ago. The Titan research array. It was badly damaged, full of static, but in between the screeching noise came a child's voice. They're not what we thought. Then silence. Now humanity stands on the brink not just of interstellar war, but of something deeper, a confrontation with a truth we may not be ready for, chasing our children into a galaxy of unknowns, armed with fury, haunted by fear. In the distance, a human fleet prepares to jump, and somewhere among the stars, something waits. Watching. Listening. Ready. The silence that followed the child's voice hit harder than any weapon could have. Earth's network of command, already strained under the weight of preparation and fear, became a breathless place. A dozen experts locked in a subterranean room under Antarctica, the only latched-down command center still rotating independently of Earth's orbital grid, burst into activity. The transmission shouldn't have been possible. The Titan research array had gone dark years ago. Its entire crew listed as missing, assumed dead after an energy pulse fried its systems in the first week of the event. For that signal to come from there now after all this time meant one terrifying thing: someone had been there the whole time, and from the fear in that child's voice, they weren't alone. Debate and suspicion ignited instantly across inter-system channels. Was it bait? Empire manipulation? A cry for help, or something darker, something planted to deter the offensive? But deep down, no one wanted to ignore it. Humanity couldn't afford another mistake. The main fleet, still holding just beyond Neptune's gravity well, remained in silent formation. Its lead ship, a relic of early deep space exploration, heavily modified with reverse-engineered alien code, orbited like a steel leviathan, bristling with energy shielding and railgun turrets. Aboard it, the leaders of Operation Reclaim met under classified quiet, no digital notes, no recordings, no AI observers. Only human minds in a sealed, zero-signal environment. The technician from Mars sat closest to the comms display, eyes darting across the cluster of corrupted waveforms pulled from the Titan broadcast. Before any of them had titles or missions, this woman had been part of the Mars atmospheric program, turning red storms into blue skies. Now she tried to interpret the sound of a frightened child lost in alien space, buried under static and whispers. The weight of it showed in her hands, trembling slightly as she rotated spectral filters over the clip again and again. "There's another layer under the voice," she finally murmured. "Low-band frequency." Deliberate, but not language. "It's like code," said another voice, older and worn, belonging to a man who used to teach astrohistory in Earth's southern academic ring. He now led human pattern analysis. Or music. Just an unfamiliar kind, like a message hiding inside a lullaby. They all paused. The Empire, the supposed galactic overlords who'd stolen Earth's children, had never tried to speak. Never used sound or symbols humanity could parse. Their tech was silent, clean, cold. Their ships moved like predators, never broadcasting intent or identity. For this message to come now, as humans prepared for war, meant something had shifted, or someone on the inside knew they were coming. They tasked 2 scout vessels to veer from the planned jump route and head to Titan, where the transmission originated. Despite the heavy risk, the main fleet wouldn't wait. They couldn't. Every Earth colony was straining supply lines, overextending every resource to push this far into the system. Waiting meant weakness, and every leader at HQ understood one truth: if the Empire had taken our children, they probably weren't waiting. Still, deep in the minds of many, a different sort of fear simmered, one that not everyone admitted aloud. What if this wasn't a war we could win? Across Earth and its colonies, civilians watched the sky differently now. Not with wonder or hope, but with teeth gritted and fists clenched. Artists had stopped painting open space. Children no longer studied the stars. Most couldn't even bear to look up. Giant broadcast screens played looped motivational visuals, Earth's old monuments backed by swelling orchestral scores. Footage of shipyards launching colossal vessels. Words like unity and reclaim, flashing in bold letters. None of it made the nightmares stop. In a garden settlement on the edge of Luna's north side crater, a small group of families gathered nightly around a campfire, an old tradition revived in these strange times. They didn't talk about loss anymore. Every single one of them had lost someone. Talking didn't fix it. Instead, they told stories. Not the kind with lasers and battles, but old human ones. About rivers, forests, and songs sung to calm, crying toddlers. Tonight, one of them, a father with a half-paralyzed face from an old exposure injury, finished telling a story about sunlight. His voice cracked at the end. "We used to think the sun would always rise," he said softly. "We never imagined someone could come and simply take away the morning." The fire snapped loudly. No one responded. There wasn't much to say when the world had taught you that even the light could vanish. Far above them, in the black corridor between Saturn and Uranus, the 2 scout ships sped toward Titan. Running silent, commander of the lead scout ship had served in Earth's orbital rescue corps before all of this, recovering wayward probes and assisting transport vessels gone quiet near the asteroid belts. She wasn't a warrior. She'd never even fired a weapon before the abductions began. But now she wore a sidearm like a second skin and issued orders with clipped efficiency. Titan's signal grew louder as they approached, not in volume, but clarity. The static cleared incrementally with proximity, revealing brief clicks and pauses underneath the speech. "My God," someone whispered from the back. "There's another voice underneath the child's." The commander leaned forward, enhance and isolate it. It wasn't human. Too smooth. Too fluid. Pitchless, though it carried tonal shifts the brain instinctively recoiled from. It wasn't a language, but it carried intention. Like something trying to feel its way through our minds. The technician beside her shuddered. "It's like it's touching the message." as if the child said something wrong, and it tried to correct them. They reached Titan's orbital field hours later. The station was still intact, more or less. Its antenna was twisted, power source nearly depleted, but its signal array blinked red, a dying beacon crying out one final time. No signs of life. Reported in Ensign, but that was only partly true. The station had life signs faint, inconsistent readings in the deep sublevels. Not moving. Not fully human. And then, right when the ship began scanning the station for docking, all of Titan's surface lights blinked on at once. Every inch. A full circle ignition from pole to pole, like something waking up after a long sleep. The ice moon that shouldn't have had that kind of power suddenly lit the void like a flare. Back on Earth, satellite relays screamed as dozens of locked frequencies suddenly activated at once. Alien code pure, unfiltered Empire signals filled the deeper matrices of the Earth defense net. Something had noticed the scouts. The commander didn't flinch. "We go in," she said. "Prep the shuttle. Lights or no lights, we find what sent that message." As the boarding team prepared, one crew member, young, first year off Earth, hesitated. He leaned close to the commander as they moved toward the airlock. "Ma'am, what if the child sent that message as a warning?" The commander clenched her jaw. "Then we'll bring them home anyway." Back in the main fleet, hours from the jump window, the Mars technician finally cracked a layer of the audio, the lullaby under the child's voice. She said quietly into her cum. The words came slow, hollowed out by disbelief. "It's not a warning to us. It's a warning to them." The room froze. Before anyone could respond, the fleet's proximity alarms rang like ancient bells. Not the standard alert, but a code red, unidentified spatial distortion, folding mass reality. 10 million kilometers wide, the sky outside flickered, and before the fleet, space itself twisted, not torn, not exploded, but peeled, as something emerged from behind it. An empire structure. Vast. At a ship, bigger than a planet, made of moving light and black alloy, shaped like a ring of stars stitched by enormous cables pulsing with energy. And at its center floated a single object. A stasis pod. Human-size. Heartbeat detected. Inside, a child. The pod hung in the void like a silent curse, delicate in shape but impossible to ignore. It pulsed faintly with a rhythm aligned to a human heartbeat, slow, steady, as if the child inside were dreaming. Around it, the massive ring structure shimmered with shifting light, like stars moving through liquid glass. No known engine signatures, no heat trails, just presence. And that presence was being felt, not just recorded, on board the lead ship. Every sensor hit maximum strain before the data collapsed into nonsensical shapes. Readings looped, numbers folded on themselves like paradoxes. AI subsystems abandoned the scans in confusion. All throughout the fleet, crew members began to report headaches, nausea, a ringing in the ears that didn't go away with pressure equalization. The Mars technician stood hunched over the display, dry-mouthed, whispering to herself as the spectrogram pinged bright again. "This isn't a weapon. It's watching. Listening in real time." Across a dozen bridge posts, commanders voiced overlapping confusion. The Empire structure hadn't attacked. No energy signatures. No aggressive stance. It just appeared, pulled open from some layer of space humanity barely understood, and let itself be seen. And still, the child inside the pod stayed motionless. Fleet Command initiated immediate containment protocols. 6 vessels broke formation to circle wide, hoping to scan from different vectors. A risky move, splitting even slightly, but uncertainty was an even bigger danger now than aggression. Nobody wanted to shoot, not first. Not yet. On Titan, near the remains of the shattered research station, the scout team had breached the subdeck where the weak life signs had been registering. They expected ruined equipment, static-filled recordings, maybe Bada's long frozen. What they found instead was something else, a room hollowed out by something sharp, like a claw had scooped through the metal. Black residue coated the walls, but it wasn't charmor, like a living mold, thin and twitching under direct light. At the center of it, a chair made of unfamiliar alloys, and inside it, another child. But this one wasn't asleep. This one looked at them as they entered, except it wasn't a normal look. It was like the child had been waiting, eyes wide open for hours, days, or longer. Glowing slightly, as if lit from within, they didn't speak, just raised a hand and pointed toward the ceiling, but the ceiling above them was solid, no access point visible. Still, the commander from the scout ship felt the message like an echo in her bones. It wasn't speech, but it was clear. Asterisk, you're not supposed to be here yet. Asterisk, she took a step back, the child tilted their head. Then the lights died out on Titan for the second time. Absolute blackout, elsewhere, back within the orbit of the Empire ring structure. A young analyst stationed on Earth's lunar relay base made a breakthrough. Working alone, partially on instinct, partially on obsession, they had been running the same song 8 tones. The one repeating in the original transmission through organic speech synthesis instead of mechanical systems. The result was grotesque. It wasn't language, it was a call. A biological frequency, closer to how whales communicated across the oceans of old Earth. But worst of all, when played back at a certain volume, the base's insect small samples kept for research went still. Brains overloaded. Nerves shut down, the analyst stared at the speakers. It had only played for 2.4 seconds. They hit stop within minutes. Data from the lunar base set off another chain of alerts. Biofeedback from the Empire's frequency wasn't just perceptible. It was tuned to organic life. Human life. Which meant the Empire wasn't simply abducting children, they were doing something with minds. With brains. Testing resonances? Programming. Or something different entirely. The fears deep inside Earth Command now spilled into open discussion. What if the children weren't prisoners? What if they were becoming tools? Or worse, liaisons. Back near the ring, the stasis pod began to move. It wasn't drifting, it was being lowered slowly toward the flagship. A display of, trust? Threat? No one knew. But it came close enough for the retrieval shuttle to lock onto it with external arms. A surgical grab. The moment it was inside, the lead ship sealed every medical deck with level 7 quarantine, the highest possible, inside the isolation field. A team of biologists, medics, and psychological specialists stood outside the viewing glass as the child's vital signs blinked in gentle rhythm. They looked untouched. No scarring. Normal body mass. But their pupils were dilated and their brainwave activity, WS in single quotes. Human beta, gamma, and alpha spikes moved alongside waveforms never recorded by any Earth database. It was like watching someone dream in two different minds at once. We shouldn't wake them. One of the medics warned quietly. They're actively interfacing with something far beyond this room. Or someone, another whispered. Within moments, heat signatures inside the pod began to change. Not from the body, but from the interior glass itself, which was reacting to their scanning frequencies like a living material under stress. Before the crew could pull back, the child's eyes opened, not slowly. Not groggy, snapped open, and every person in the isolation room heard. The same words in their minds, asterisk, you're not fighting the Empire. You're fighting what comes after it. Asterisk, half the team staggered back, noses bleeding from sheer cognitive intrusion. It wasn't pain they described later, it was knowing. An overload of knowledge packed into a second of awareness, like a file too large pushed through a wire too thin. The child blinked again, then nothing. Outside, the vast ring began to change color. Not rapidly, but a slow bleed, gold into crimson. Almost like the structure had heard, and reacted, aboard one of the Earth escort cruisers running passive scans along the structure's edge. Sensors caught something new. Not weapons, words, dozens of pulse-style emissions. Mimicking human script, poorly, like someone copying from a distant memory, 4 messages translated clearly. Asterisk, asterisk, you're early. Asterisk, 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 their flesh still remembers Earth. Asterisk, 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 they were never taken. Asterisk, 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 they belong to us now. Asterisk, asterisk, across Earth's scattered response teams. The weight of these words dropped like stone. For decades, humans had viewed survival as a moral right, that conquest and abduction were evils. But here the suggestion ran deeper. Asterisk, the children were not just stolen, they were changed. Willingly or not, they were part of something new. Asterisk, the sub-factions on Earth exploded again in debate. The keepers, those who begged that understanding was possible, claimed this proved it. The children had been drafted, not destroyed. We could negotiate, but others, especially among the outer colonies, saw only terror. If they were ours before and theirs now, what had been done to make that true? What were the children becoming? Back in the containment chamber, the pod systems began unraveling without warning. Its structure turned to vapor, like ice hissing under fire, leaving behind only the child. Naked, eyes wide, staring not at the doctors, but past them, at something they could see. But no one else could. Do you know where you are? A soft voice asked from outside. The child's mouth moved. Not lips. Just barely, like remembering how to speak. Then, a whisper, asterisk, behind me. Asterisk, silence. Before anyone could ask another question, gravitational alarms screamed across the fleet. Micro-lensing effects, space bending inside space. Like a mirror twisting into itself, something was arriving again, but it wasn't from the Empire. This came from nowhere on any human chart. No signal. No light, just darkness spreading from a pinpoint. A second child's voice echoed suddenly on every open channel. Without a transmitter, asterisk, we told you not to come. Asterisk, then the stars themselves began to vanish, one by one. The stars didn't blink or fade. They were pulled one by one, folded into that silently growing mark in the void, like threads being unwoven from space itself. Across the human fleet, every optical system went dark first. Then diagnostic error messages flooded in, cascading through devices like tidal waves. Pitch black replaced the galaxy. All that remained was the ring structure's crimson glow, the stasis child inside the flagship, and that unnatural dot of nothing that was no longer empty, inside the medical deck. The child that had spoken those words that weren't exactly speech stood quietly in the observation room. The floor around them flickered with low magnetic interference. No containment field could read them properly now. Every system insisted nothing was in the room. Still, there they stood, watching the walls as if expecting them to fall inward. I can feel them, the child whispered suddenly. They followed your thoughts? You looked for something in the dark, and now it's looking back? The commander from the lead ship pressed his hand against the glass, eyes reddened from fatigue and fear. His voice was strained but calm. What's coming through that hole? Is it them again? Another part of the Empire? The child tilted their head slightly. There was a long pause before the answer came. No, not the Empire, worse. Their fingers curled inward. The ones they were running from. Alarms echoed sharp and hollow across the ship walls. Earth's fleet began pulling in tight formation. Orders ran on physical relay as electronic systems staggered under the spreading interference. Radios buzzed, twisted, looped audio back seconds later like haunted echoes. None of this was war. It was unraveling, and through every open channel, every unshielded neural port and unfiltered sensor array, came a repeated phrase, origin unknown, voice synthetic and layered, like overlapping strings resonating in cracked harmony. Asterisk, we see the door you've opened. Asterisk, below the chaos. Deep in Earth's system-wide defense hub, once the pride of human advancement, a group of emergency strategists stood staring at the last clean visual frame before the blackout. The singularity, the ring structure, the child's containment pod. Side by side, these images painted a pattern no algorithm could decipher, but a silent understanding pooled among the humans in the room. The war they'd prepared for was not the war they'd stepped into on Titan. The child in the broken chamber had vanished. Only the black mold-like substance remained, now spreading against the metal walls in slow spirals. It pulsed in rhythm with the interference from space, suggesting the infection wasn't local. It was connected. Alive, or at least mimicking life. Just before the signal went dark, a final command came from the scout ship. We found something underneath the station. Looks like an artificial lattice running deep into the moon's crust. Like a web. Readings match nothing we've seen. Then the footage cut to static. Seconds later, Titan's surface lost all thermodynamic consistency. Heat maps dropped to an impossible 300 degrees. No survivors. No confirmation. Inside the ring structure's orbit, the singularity began to change. It split open, not torn, but parted, like lips opening across the fabric of deep space. Something moved beyond the veil. Not a ship? Not energy, just shape. Like fingers pressing through cloth, bending stars and systems around them. The human fleet couldn't scan, couldn't see, but they felt it. Every crew member aboard every ship reported the same physical reaction: shortness of breath, a sharp pain at the base of the skull, and beneath all that, a rising panic no military training could cover. Suddenly, across Earth's fractured networks, flickers of video began to appear. At first they looked like recovered feeds from missing habitats and orphaned ships' children wandering halls, some laughing, some sleeping, others silent in vast alien rooms. But it soon became apparent the images were current. Live. Some of the faces on the screens were familiar. Mothers clutched the edges of monitors as their child, presumed gone for years, appeared healthy. Changed. Not scarred or harmed, but behaving like someone who had learned to carry something older in their bones. Their eyes no longer focused on the space around them, they focused on us, watching through the cameras. All the children looked straight through the screens like mirrors. Then one of them spoke. Across every screen in exact unison, we were never lost. The image cut to black. Humanity had chased the abductors, screamed for justice, wept for their children, and now the children had become the voice of an intelligence far beyond any earthborn logic. The Empire hadn't kidnapped them. At least not for conquest, and now that second force, the one behind the darkness swallowing the stars, was reaching for the space between realities, using the open paths like roads paved by human desperation. The child on the lead ship, still contained but no longer alone in the room, turned their gaze on one of the medical officers. The man froze in place, unable to move, pupils contracting tight as pinheads. "They're looking at you through me," the child said calmly. "But not because of anger. You're new to them. Like we were. Who are they?" The commander called out again, voice cracking now, not caring if the floor crews heard the fear. "They were sealed," the child said simply, "by the same empire you wanted war with. Not because of peace, but because the alternative is merging." The commander turned to the strategist at his side, whispering fast. "What's the jump status?" "We need to pull back, now." "No window," the officer replied. "Every drive system is cycling errors. Quantum layering skewed, the path back isn't safe. Any jump could scatter the fleet across time." Time. The word hit with a different weight now. Another wave of transmissions burst across the inner fleet. Not warnings. Coordinates, thousands of them, mapped directly into the neural space of the ship's AI interface system without permission or origin. The coordinates matched nothing in current records. Not galaxies. Not voids, just blank entries. Empty folders with no light, and in all of them, a human child's name. One of the researchers collapsed. He hadn't moved since the first set of coordinates. When he finally stood, he whispered, "That's where they're keeping them. All of them. Not planets. Vessels. The Empire didn't kidnap our kids for experiments. These places, they're shaping them, cultivating them, for contact." Another member of the crew backed away in horror. "Contact with what?" The researcher looked up, eyes hollow. "Us after." Tension ripped through the command ship like wire snapping under pressure. Then, light, brilliant, unbearable, poured from the singularity as the shape inside finally emerged. Just the edge of what looked like particle skin bending in shapes no logic could describe. With it came sound, not audio, but something the mind mistook for it. Whispering words that had no breath behind them, filling the inside of heads with pressure too sharp to remember, the child curled forward, holding their ears. "It's here!" they screamed. "You can't fight it. You lied to the stars to bring it closer." Every ship in the fleet began receiving a final message. No source. No code. Just cinched arrival across ship clocks in perfect unison. 3 words, ***, interlock sequence initiated. ***, no one understood what it meant, until the fleet began to move, not by the captain's orders, not by crew control. Every vessel lit with a golden line traced along its hull, connecting in patterns to other ships in the formation. No propulsion. Just force. Like being moved by a puppeteer with strings, woven straight into space itself. Earth's fleet was becoming part of a larger shape, a symbol, a key. And beyond the black veil, something turned. Waiting. The fleet moved as one, not in formations crafted by human hands, but as if pulled into place by forces that had waited in silence for them to arrive. No resistance, no overrides, no escape. Each ship aligned perfectly in a celestial shape too vast to comprehend from inside, a glyph stretching across the dark like a language carved into space itself. It wasn't technology that moved them. It was intent. The same intent that had taken the children, that had shaped the rings, that had waited patiently for humanity's peace to crumble. And now the keymate of people, of history, of rage had been inserted. Inside the flagship, the child silently stepped forward to the glass, staring into the black opening where stars had once been. Their voice had lost the eerie calm it once carried. Now they sounded like a child again, still too quiet, still afraid. "We thought they wanted to destroy us," the child whispered. "But they were only sheltering us?" The Empire knew what was on the other side. They knew what slept behind the veil. The commander, fists clenched and shoulders tight, lowered his voice. "Then why take our children? Why not tell us?" "Because we wouldn't have listened," the child said. "You already know that's true?" Somewhere in the pit of the commander's heart, he did understand. Humanity hadn't grown without blood. Its peace had risen not from trust, but from the exhaustion of war. The Empire hadn't bargained with humans because humanity still needed a reason to fight, to protect, to defend, to prove their place under the stars. The children weren't prisoners. They were survivors chosen before the rest could understand the cost. Outside, the singularity pulsed once, then vanished. In its place came something still and vast. A structure? A being? No one could clearly identify it. Not even AI systems could form coherent images. But all who saw it felt one thing deep in their cores. Recognition. Not from knowledge, from memory. Inside the ships, humans began to see flashes. Not visions, reflections. Of ancient places, genetic memories buried deep. Oceans lit by sky fire. Towers of bone and light. A human girl standing on a shore beside a shadow that wasn't born of night, but of something even more distant. They weren't hallucinations. They were fragments. Left over from a time before time, when something like humanity had touched something like eternity and crashed from it, the Empire had kept the door locked. But it wasn't a prison. It was a mercy, and now the lock had turned. In every ship, the golden lines connecting the vessels brightened into thin threads tethered to the black construct in front of them. It wasn't pulling them closer. It was loving them, embracing them like a parent holding a child for the first time. A love so massive it burned. A love old enough to erase, weapons powered online across the fleet, entirely on their own, not to fire, but to remember. Engineers gasped as decades of transmitted information began uploading themselves into the guidance systems. Human history, biology, songs, languages, sculptures, thoughts, regrets. It wasn't an attack, it was a calibration. "We're becoming part of it," the Mars technician said over a trembling whisper of comms. "We're burning our shape into it. It's reading us. Before it chooses." "Chooses what?" the commander asked. "To let us stay," she murmured. Everything slowed. Outside, time didn't move normally. Seconds became moments stretched into something weightless. Then across the entire fleet came a final signal. This one not noisy, not violent. Almost beautiful, the voices of every missing child, layered into one phrase carried in unity and peace. Asterisk, we are not gone. We are changed. You can be too. Asterisk, and for the first time, the commanders made their choice without weapons. They listened. Every ship powered down weapons. Systems. No fire barked into that endless night. No retaliation. Only waiting. Then. Light. The black construct pulsed once more, and the golden lines tore upward like roots leaving the soil. Space snapped closed around the shape, but this time it left something behind. The children, not in pods. Not asleep, standing, aboard every ship or walking calmly across vacuum like the void couldn't touch them. Some stepped into the ships they'd been born in. Others placed their hands on the hulls, whispering in languages they never knew, one girl walking the corridor of the command. Ship stopped beside a crewman who had once painted ceilings in Europa's living domes. She took his hand. "I'm still me," she whispered. "But now I remember what we were." Then, like dreamers waking, they collapsed, alive, whole, but no longer connected, inside the medical chamber. The final child dropped into the officer's arms, eyes closing peacefully. Heartbeat steady. "They let us go," the officer said. "No," the commander corrected, voice hollow from disbelief. "They returned us." Around the ring structure, the false stars lit one more time, and then everything vanished. The blackness became natural again. Distant stars reappeared. The void calmed. Fleet systems reset. And in the quiet, humanity heard nothing more. No whisper. No warning. No threat. Just breathing. Their own, later, back on Earth. The survivors tried to explain, but how do you describe standing before a mind older than suns, built not of matter, but of purpose? How do you describe watching your children hold the weight of a forgotten universe and willingly give it back? They recovered all of them, every lost child, stored in the coordinates shared by the fallen empire. Each different, changed, but still human. Some spoke of strange dreams, songs they couldn't unhear. Others didn't remember anything except a great warmth, like sleeping in the arms of something they could never name again. Humanity returned, home not in victory, but in silence. The war never happened. Not as they expected it. There were no bodies. No blood. Only a door that cracked just wide enough for the ones behind it to see who was knocking. The Empire had broken peace to save what they could. They had stolen the children to make sure humanity had a second chance to choose wisely. Not to conquer. Not to defend. But to learn. Most of the fleet disbanded within a year. Colonies slowed expansion. Exploration didn't stop but changed course. Less rush, more caution. More curiosity without arrogance. Some tried to rally for retaliation, clinging to fear. But it didn't last. Because now, stored in the minds of millions, was the simple truth: there are things in this universe that do not care about war or power, but they listen, and one day, they may choose to speak again. As for the children, they grew. Many of them never fully remembered whatever intelligence had touched them. But small things lingered. A sense for time, a resistance to cold, whispers in dreams. Most lived quiet lives. Others became leaders of art, philosophy, and science. They became the turning point, the ones who stood between the old age of humanity and whatever came next. Earth lived on, a little more careful, a little more gentle with the sky, no longer shouting into the cosmos but speaking softly. Carefully, because now they understood. The stars were never empty, they were only quiet, waiting to see what kind of visitors we would become. And for the first time, perhaps in millennia, humankind was ready to listen.